Here is the 2024 Honda Ridgeline RTL in platinum white with black leather. 4 trims to option. They have done some tweaks into the interior and we're waiting for that refresh to come, which will change out the exterior and some of the interior components, keeping a similar look to the Pilot. I'm Anthony from Hawkeye Rides, and this is sharing the same platform as the Pilot before the refresh. So it's a unibody construction, no body on frame, which makes this drive like a car. Standard LED headlights, daytime runnings, the chrome trim will integrate into the headlamp assembly. All trims receive a refresh grille. The Trailsport will have its own unique grille, and you'll get a skid plate, but it's not going to alter any of the clearance. It's still at 7.64 inches, in which when I'm thinking Trailsport, I would like to at least get an extra inch. Now with the Trailsport, they have retuned the springs, dampers, and stabilizer bar, but it's not going to alter anything for the payload or the towing, keeping it at 5,000 pounds. The lower here is going to get all the matte black, and you can option an HPD package, which will flare out these fenders and change the wheels to a bronze wheel, and the Trailsport will have its own unique wheel as well. All trims receive the 3.5 liter V6 with 280 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque paired to a 9-speed automatic transmission, and all trims receive standard all-wheel drive. So when you're thinking competition like Nissan, Toyota, Ford, Chevy, GM, you're not going to receive that with them. 18 mpgs for the city, 24 mpgs for the highway, 18-inch 5-spoke alloy wheels. The IVTM4 all-wheel drive system is also more unique because it has a pair of electro-hydraulically actuated clutch packs, one to drive each rear wheel, allowing for varying amounts of torque to be directed to each rear wheel independently, which means that 70% of power can be distributed to the rear or any of those wheels with a 57.1, 42.9 weight distribution, making it a little bit easier to conquer some off-road capabilities. And the Trailsport is really the one that's going to tick the box for that, because you're going to get an off-road suspension and you'll receive the skid plate that will cover the oil pan in the front. So if you do some light maneuvers, you're going to be taken care of. And going back to competition, this is going to be one of the more smooth driving vehicles because of that unibody construction, standard LED tail lights, and when they did the refresh a few years back, we got the dual exhaust outlets, which made it look a lot more athletic, because without it, it just looks too simplified. There's no soft open here, so be careful. It goes into 64 inches long, 54 inches between the wheel well housing, a height that's 16.7 inches, giving us a total of 33.9 cubic feet of storage. But we have more cargo. There's a little lever here opening up like a door that's going to give us an additional cargo capacity underneath the floor with a spare tire at 7.3 cubic feet. Total payload at 1,583 pounds. Ten-way power seat adjustment, heated front seats, leather wrap seats, 4-way power seat adjustment for the passenger. Ventilated seats will be on the Black Edition, memory for the driver. Headroom and leg room. For 24, they did some refreshments. Starting with this 9-inch infotainment screen, you now have a little ledge here that you can just kind of rest your palm if you need to. The Trailsport will get the navigation. HD radio starts on the Black Edition. Wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. Sirius XM starts on this trim here. Put it into reverse and we get a reverse camera. The trajectory expands and you can change different angles of the camera. Tri-climate control settings, and the center cluster has been reworked. Wireless charger is standard. You still get a sleeve of storage here, 2 USBs and a 12-volt. Heated seat switches, and the cup holders are a little bit more deep. This is going to be a lot more longer and wider and deeper. Leather wrap steering wheel, heated, starts on the Trailsport, multi-function with paddle shifts. The gauge cluster is a digital reader that comes standard, and you can go through an array of information for the driver. And you can toggle through different settings to make it a little bit less cluttered for you whenever you're scrolling through everything. 7 speakers standard with 215 watts. The 8 speaker 500 plus watt is only going to be on the Black Edition. A moonroof, auto dimming rear view mirror, blind spot monitoring, the door panels configure into the dash, and you get the contrast stitching with the satin aluminum and 2 tiers of storage. Headroom and legroom. It's going to be a little bit more tight in the back. You get storage behind both of the front seats, 12-volt charger, air vents, cup holders, and a little holder in the back with a large armrest. The door is going to be stripped of the silver, and it's going to be only software it needs to be, with just a beverage holder and maybe a phone or a mint holder here. Sliding into the center, the floor is completely flat. You will be sharing some feet space, not so much because the rails are pushed up, but leg and shoulder space is not going to be too bad because of the width of the vehicle. Headroom is actually pretty good, and these seats fold up at a 60-40 split, and it is a flat floor, so you can have a lot more cargo even in the interior of the vehicle. 280 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque. That's what a V6 is going to sound like. Trying to get the job done with towing capabilities of 5,000 pounds, standard all-wheel drive. There's a lot of positives to tick when you're thinking about getting a pickup truck and going to the Honda side. Smooth driving. It's going to be more quiet in the cabin. It's actually one of the most quiet vehicles in class. And a lot of that is because of the unibody construction. And the suspension layout is good too, because you get the McPherson strut front and a multi-link rear. Plus, with that IVT M4 all-wheel drive system, 70% of torque or power can be distributed to each wheel whenever you're giving it full gas, making it a little bit more unique. You can still do some off-road capabilities, and some other pros is the center cluster now is cleaned up. It's a lot more big, in which you can utilize it a little bit more so. The touchscreen infotainment, you get that little lip that you can kind of rest your palm, and a standard gauge cluster. And when you go into the RTL, you're getting leather seats. Some cons start off with, we're still not getting a full refresh until hopefully next year. The Trailsport doesn't increase anything for clearance. It does give you a skid plate and some off-road suspension, but it's not going to alter too much of the actual vehicle to do a lot of that off-roading capabilities. The back seat doesn't necessarily have a climate control. It's actually stationed in the front, so you have to set everything here. The back seat occupants can't turn it up or down. So having a tri-climate control, it's good in the sense of the way they have it set up, but you need to have physical buttons in the back for them to utilize it and operate it as well. Back seat also is lacking in storage. You only get 1 cup or bottle holder in the door panel and maybe a cell phone holder. It's also one of the most tight in class for leg space for the back seats. But the pro is you can fold those seats up at the 40-60 split. The floor is completely flat. And let's rock and roll. That's with the S engaged, in which when you utilize that, it will stay at a higher RPM, which is good if you need to get in and out quickly, but for a daily use, you're going to be kind of pushing it on and off. That way it will lower the RPM. I didn't cut in front of anybody. There's just too many people in the passing lane. The seats are comfortable. The steering is going to have quite a bit of weight to it, but you're expecting that with the pickup truck. The heaviest on the steering actually is the Nissan Frontier. And when you're thinking about the two as comparable rivals, both of them don't necessarily do a great job for off-roading capabilities. They're just known for day in and day out use and a comfortable drive, which if you're looking to get your feet wet with a truck, I like that because you're not wanting something that's over the top, because let's face it, you go to a Ram or an F-150, they're very long vehicles. So even when you're doing reversing, people have a lot of problems putting it in parking spaces, and they're longer too. Therefore, it's a little bit tighter in the garage, whereas when you go to these pickup trucks, a little bit smaller, and you can still get most of the jobs done that you would need on a day in and day out basis. Turn radius is about 2 1/4 lane. And when you're thinking a larger truck, that's going to be more of a 3-lane turn radius. But the biggest problem that I have with the Ridgeline is they do not offer different power options. They don't really have an off-road variant, but they offer a trail sport and an HPD package to make it look like that, in which you're not gaining all the potential that this truck has. Considering most of the features that you get standard, it beats almost everybody in its competition. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Check out the next video, merchandise, website, and Instagram. Leave a comment and a like, and I'd like to thank Regal Honda for giving us this 2024 Honda Ridgeline RTL for our car review.